7th. Oh, and it is the Beaches Photography Club meeting on October 7th, and it is our annual competition results meeting. So thank you for being on Zoom. So we've seen the slideshow before the meeting. Thank you for those of you that had contributed some images. We had a little fun with that. And I'm going to do a super quick, just a little update here. And then very quickly, we're going to get you into the results with our judge, Dave Bowers. Thank you, Dave. And we're going to do the color and monochrome categories tonight. And the reason, I think everybody saw in the email, the reason that we're doing the 2 evenings is because Dave is giving us mini critiques basically on each of the images. So Dave Woolley will tell us about that a little bit later, but right now that's the plan. So the second half.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
am not seeing your screen at all. I
Okay.
can't be the only one because I changed nothing.
All right, then that's me. Hang on a second. I'm glad you're telling me that. Thank you, Roxanne.
All right.
All right, hang on, please. Full screen. And now I'm seeing your picture and chat and share. Let's try it again.
Am I the only one?
What do you see now?
Oh, now I see you.
Oh, thank you for telling me. That would have been
All
really bad. Yeah, thank you for telling me that. All right,
Okay.
now,
All right.
okay, now what do you see? Now you
You're
see,
good. You're good.
I'm good. All right, so we're going to keep rolling. So
Okay.
now the reminder, this is again night 1. The next night is Thursday, 5:30, same Zoom link. I will send out the Zoom link again on Thursday, but it's the same Zoom link. Okay, here's the fast rolling stuff. And these are all on our website and all on the app. But we do have the next night of the annual competition results is on Thursday. Then after that, our November meeting is on November 10th. Notice this is a Monday. We had to switch it to a Monday. That's going to mess up people, but it's November 10th on a Monday. Susan Michael on photographing children. December back to Tuesdays. December 2nd, Will Dickey on photojournalism. And then our January meeting is Byron Capo, who spoke to us before on infrared photography, but he's back. He's going to talk to us on that. Okay. The outings, we got a bunch of them. Now, this one that you haven't seen this on the web yet because it's just me because I want to go to Biketoberfest. So if anybody wants, I don't even think that's spelled properly, but it is Biketoberfest coming up on, what is it, next Friday, I guess. And I want to go down to Daytona. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be carpool with a friend. The other thing is next Northeast Florida Rodeo on Sunday, 10/19. So that's next Sunday. And that is hosted by Brian Viola and Charlie Baldwin. Thank you, gentlemen, down at the Callahan. I'm going to have to fix this slide transition because that did it on its own. It's down at the Callahan Speedway. And then we have the Blue Angels that are going to be back at Jack's Beach. It's going to be just basically go with a friend. And Porch Fest, if anybody's not been to Porch Fest, it is a ton of fun. It is up in the Springfield neighborhood in outside of downtown. That's going to be sort of a go with a buddy and run around. And we also get to be in the VIP tent and get a t-shirt if you go. It's kind of cool. And then there is a new and nearly new member meeting. Thank you to Max on right before our November meeting on Monday, 11/10. And then we're going to the Parker Flower Farm on Wednesday, November 12th from 4 to 5:30. Nancy got us a great, fantastic thing for that. So you want to sign up for that if you can. And then we have our Harvest on the Grill, which is really, it has replaced us having a holiday party. This is our big gathering, and it's going to be at the pavilion at the Palermo subdivision. So it's basically a potluck kind of a deal. Actually, the club provides the meat and everybody brings everything else, but it's a lot of fun. Here's just a little thing on the bottom. If you have ideas and are willing to organize an outing or workshop, email the Beaches Photography Club at gmail.com. Okay. Now, that is it. That is it. I'm under my 10 minutes. Speedy me. So, our judge for the evening is Dave Bowers. And Dave, before we do your intro, I am going, and so Dave Woolley's going to do the intro, but I want to make sure I'm going to ask y'all to bear with me 1 second. And can everybody see my screen? And Ed Flaker, are you still there? I want you
We're
to
here, Liz.
help me figure out why it is automatically playing start. I want to hit next, next, next. So let's look at it together.
We don't see it, Liz. We just see you.
Yep.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
Right,
It is an email from today.
That's it. This is it. This is the one. It worked for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear Bob. I hear Bob Richardson. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We're trying. Let me go hit share. Hang on a minute.
Who's Dave?
I guess I'm sharing my whole
You're
screen.
good now.
gotta
You're good
turn
now.
off your mic.
It's something to do with a share screen.
Cindy, you probably have to mute people. Let me go into Ed. I want you unmuted though.
Yeah, I'm on the unmuted.
What do you see now?
The SharePoint with Dave Bauer's picture on the right.
Okay, then that's weird. Let me hang on a second. I'm going, you are screen sharing, stop screen. Hang on. And I'm going back into Zoom. No, I'm not. Now you're seeing text messages. Zoom. Okay. I have to go full screen and share. And I want to share PowerPoint, BPC. Are you seeing that with me now, Ed?
Yeah, that's the one that was up before.
Oh, it was. All right. Well, now what I want is I want to hit next, 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 because that lets Dave have time. So I only wonder what happens if I just go view. And if anybody else can figure this out, what I'm trying to do is go view. Outline view.
Hey, Liz,
Why isn't it just presenter view?
go to view over on the far left.
I think it's presenter view.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if this happens. So we're going to sit here for just 1 second. And actually, we're going to go to the next slide because we want it anyway. So Dave Woolley, let's unmute Dave Woolley, Cindy. And he is going to introduce our judge. So is Dave Woolley unmuted?
Dave Woolley's ready to go.
Hey! Okay, sir, you're in charge.
We have
Oops, I went too far.
judges over the last 2 years. One of the more important emphasis in this contest. I mean, it is a contest. The images are judged, point scores for them, and we've had discussions more so than critiques last year. And one of the things we looked for this year was there were two things that went into it. Number one was we were looking for a judge that was capable of critiquing images that weren't just straight photography. We have this creative category. We have a lot of people that enter images into the creative category. And there's certainly a bit of whimsy that's involved in some of those photographs. And there is a lot of artistic intent in those photographs. And we felt that needed to be judged with the same interest and the same depth that a straight photograph is. It's not easy to find a judge that has the capabilities and the desire to delve into those type of photographs, getting past the straight shot of the animal photography, the landscape photography. Dave Bowers is a judge that has that capability in those areas. And the second thing we were looking for was more of an in-depth critique with each image, because we recognize in most cases our members are entering their best shots. And given that, we wanted some objective critiques that are done, pointing out the positives and the negatives where they exist on a more detailed basis than we've had in past years. Both of those led us to Dave Bowers, and it led us to Dave Bowers actually minutes before he joined the club as a member. There was a little bit of a consideration of, do we want a member to judge our contest? Well, when we decided on Dave, he wasn't a member. Subsequent to that, he is a member. We think the choice was a correct one, and I'm for one looking forward to the next half hour or so, whatever it's going to take, to go through all these images. So on that note, Dave, it's on to you.
Okay, so we got to make sure that Dave Bowers is unmuted. I'm looking. Cindy, are you on there?
Hello, hello.
Yeah,
Are we good?
we're good. I can hear you, but I can't see you, Dave. Can you take your purple off because you've
No,
now
I'm
finished?
still eating sushi.
Oh, come on.
All right.
All right, what does everybody still see that when I look around in the thing, do they still see PowerPoint?
Yes.
Good, okay. I gotta go.
Yes.
Dave, you just tell me. I am your pointer.
All right, so that's the title page. I just want to open up with a few remarks, if I may.
Oh, yes, sir. I can go back to your.
No, you can take that down.
All right.
So we have in front of us 139 images that's going to be split over 2 days. And I can tell you by looking at all 139 of them, from this point, they're all good. They're all good. So, you hear the word critique, and every now and then people, they kind of repel from that. It's more like a learning experience. Let's take a look at 139. Let's take our time. Let's discuss what we've got in front of us, and let's see if we can't use this as a learning experience so that moving forward, we all become better photographers. I mean, that's why I love doing this. I really do. One of the things I would like to say up front is there seems to have been a common thread that is amongst a significant number of these images. And that common thread is issues associated with cropping. So if you have a chance and you can reach across your desk and pick up an index card or a piece of typing paper or something, from time to time, you're going to hear me speak about come a little from the right. And take that piece of paper and just, bring it over and you can see what I'm talking about, or you've got a lot of foreground here. Let's think about terms of taking that sheet of paper, that index card, and moving it up and just see visually what I'm talking about. Another thing I would like to mention, please, is I know there may be situations where I've gone through and done your images. Please don't go away. Please stay with the entire program. A lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into this at the Beaches Club. You're going to learn as much from the last image as perhaps you did in the first. So stay with it, learn from other people's issues, and let's get into this. Let's have some fun, and let's do some great photography. Hit it.
Okay.
Bear with me, please.
Does everybody see Magical Wild Cranberry Bog?
Cranberry Bog, magical. I love this image. The question is the subject. Subject is the foreground, the cranberry bog, and that fading away to the back to that misty sky gives a great sense of mood. I would like you to consider perhaps cropping from the bottom up give it more of a landscape mode. I think the colors generate a lot of interest. There's a wonderful depth of field here, and it fades into a background of mist. I think we got a little bit too much foreground. Consider, if you would, cropping from the bottom up and generating an aspect ratio that's more in keeping with, say, a 16:9. Very pretty. Love the balance of colors. Another thing to keep in mind is that the highlights across that background are balanced. They're wonderful. I'm not being blown out in any particular corner of the image. There's just enough in that depth of field to show those trees in the background, so the viewer knows they're there, but they don't dominate the image where it would take away from the foreground. Foreground is, in fact, the subject. Wonderful image. Thank you, Anita. Next. Wonderful craftsmanship. Look at the wonderful focal point of showing those little fibers. The stem coming out of that lower right-hand corner is so important. Wonderful job. Depth of field, spot on. Another thing I like about this image is that symbiotic relationship between the plant and those dewdrops. And it's focused just to the point where the dewdrops, and of course, as you know, if there's a dewdrop in an image, it's an inverse magnified image of what's above it. I think this is just terrific. It is just a wonderful image. Everything about it is special. Really, really good. Next. Go to an Anne. And solid, absolutely solid. Okay, here we go. Colorful community. I'm going to guess that perhaps this could have been during golden light, but I think that there is a bit of oversaturation here. Everything is jumping at me to the point where the sky has become lost. Consider, if you would, to desaturate 10–15% and allow the colors of that background and the greens and the yellows to kind of blend in and become part of the overall landscape photograph. When I push back in my chair, I'm immediately hit with yellow, blue, and orange, and it's overpowering. The sky doesn't seem to have a chance. So I'd like you to consider, if you would, just come back a bit on those yellows, blues, greens. Next. Good one, Bob. Really good. I think sometimes when you're taking night photography and that aperture is wide open, there's always a possibility, of course, is that you're going to introduce a lot of grain. If you could denoise this print a bit, that would be nice. I like the aspect ratio of it in keeping with the lighthouse. And if you had the opportunity in post-production, if you could have created a beacon of light emanating from the top of that lighthouse, that might have been an opportunity to create additional interest. All in all, it's a wonderful print. Your cropping is really, really good. I like the glow around the light source. Increasing blacks might be something to consider. Get those stripes on that lighthouse there to be a little more high contrasty. A little more black would be good, but I think generally speaking, it's a wonderful one, Brian. I think that noise might be a consideration for you to consider dropping down. Wonderful woodland scenes. I think generally speaking, where time dwells, Love it. Wonderful. You know, we talk from time to time about how important titling is. Here's a classic example where the maker really took their time to consider how would I title this thing. Where time dwells, really good job. I think a little more foreground would be good, though. I think that if we could have a little more lead in for the viewer as they're approaching this magnificent tree, I think that would have been good. Got a lot of branches, though, that are leaving the frame. Now, the question, of course, is, the tree is much bigger than the capture of the image. Should we, as photographers in post-production, consider taking some of those leading branches out, leaving a little room around the perimeter? You might want to consider that. I also think this might be good with a little touch of HDR. You know, HDR, that high dynamic range, really has a great opportunity to develop the texture in the bark and the moss and everything else. Lowering the highlights, you might want to consider that, Carol. All in all, really good work. Really good work. And thank you for sharing. Okay. You know, we talk about cropping. And one of the things sometimes is we can crop too hard. If you take a look at the stern of the boat on the right, I think we may have overcropped and we clipped it. Consider, if you would, to let that side breathe, give it room to breathe. Be careful with cropping. If you take a look at the left-hand side of the image, we've got those piers that are there. And we've got some images of lines and tie-down devices. You might want to consider eliminating some of those with your erase tool. And I also think there's a great opportunity here to work with that sky. You got a great sky. You've got those wonderful white clouds in that upper right-hand corner. Take a look at emphasizing that, because if you do, you're going to create a much more heightened sense of mood. And I think there's something there that you haven't considered, and that is deepen the blues, darken the skies, and accentuate. You see the yellow through the center there of that setting sun? Increase yellows a little bit. That might be fun. I just think this is a contrast issue. But a very fine photograph, Carol. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so this is highly interpretive. That being the case, I think it might be a consideration to increase texture. This image is about texture. It's about the receding tide going out and leaving us a natural design. And I think the opportunity to emphasize this emphasis is going to be with increased texture. Got some highlights in that upper corner on the left. Consider bringing those down. And I also like the fact that you took your time as to where to stand. You know, sometimes we're all walking along, we've got our cameras on our shoulders, and we're saying, oh, that looks like a good shot, and we snap away. It's really important to just take your time, compose the image in your mind, move left, move right, take a look at what's going on, because once you snap that shutter, that's it. It's frozen. And when you go into post-production, that's all you've got to deal with. You take a look at a painter, for example. The painter in his canvas can sit there in his studio, he can take a few steps back and he can look at it and say, you know what, could use another tree. And they can just dip in the green, they can put another tree in. Once you snap that shutter, that's it. And so I just think this is a wonderful image, but I think it could be heightened and made just a little bit stronger by increasing texture. Next. Good one, Charlie. I think that left edge, if you take a piece of paper or an index card and consider cropping in from the left, that tree post has got to go. I also think that dehazing in post-production could be a valuable tool to consider. But that tree on the left edge, by virtue of the fact that we're only showing half of the trunk, would we have been better to show all of it and then giving it room to breathe? I think it should go. If you could just take that piece of paper or your index card and bring it over from the left edge and remove that tree, I think that would heighten that altogether. And also, I think coming down from the top and create more of a landscape aspect ratio. Very fine. Lighting in the background, maybe reducing highlights would be helpful here. And I think in post-production, if you could increase sharpening and denoise, that really would bring it together. But a fine shot altogether, Charlie. Good one to be sure. Thank you. Okay, great image. Let's start with that. Where silence roars. I would like to see the whites be a bit more dominant. And I believe that if we could mask this effectively, we could generate a lot more interest if the whites could be more pronounced. In so doing, be careful of the light veils that are being given off by that rock. Great foreground, great job, but I'd like to see the whites a little bit more pronounced, if that's possible. Thank you. You know what's wrong with this image? Nothing. I love it. Terrific. Art Deco. My. How important is the fact that that left bottom corner is incomplete? I'm just asking, would it be better off, would the image stand on its own merits if it wasn't there? Because what's happened, of course, is that we've cut it off. Could it be dulled down by a brush mask? Maybe. Message is good. The Art Deco point of it is good. I just think the intensity is just spot on. Really, really good. You want to be picky, denoise the blacks, but other than that, it's really a wonderful shot. Really terrific. Thank you. Okay, follow the river. Great way to title something and to invite the viewer in. I'm sure you took your time as to where you stood, making sure that you could get in the foreground, the beginning of this river as it meandered down and then eventually faded off into the background. Aperture, really good. I'm guessing f11, f16. Foreground is tack sharp, background is good. I think that an area where we could take a look as to heightening the interest would be in that blue sky. I think there's something there that's valuable that hasn't been drawn out yet. So how do we do that? You can start by, if you don't mask, I don't know if you do masking or not, but just do selective color saturation blue. Select blue, selective color saturation, that might help. I think highlights should come down just a bit. All in all, it's a very interesting image. Taking a look at the upper left-hand corner, again, let's talk about cropping. Taking something and just moving it to closer to where that mountain leaves the scene. I think there is some room to crop perhaps an inch and a half along that right side edge. And that would give a line that goes off up into the corner, which is really, really interesting. All in all, I think dehazing would be a great choice here to kind of tighten everything up. But it's a beautiful shot, and I'm sure you're on vacation. It's a shot you're never going to forget. Good one, Deb. Very, very interesting. I like the drops. I like the water drops a great deal. But I wonder if it isn't possible that we've got a bit too much green. That green leaf coming off the flower in the upper left-hand corner, I'd like to see that out. Takes away from the subject. I like the water droplets, that leaf down in the bottom left-hand corner. I'd like to see that go. You couldn't do it by desaturating green because then you'd lose it in the stem. And that stem is critically important to the shot. So if it's possible to remove in post-production that leaf in the upper right-hand corner, right, and then that one in the lower left, I think we have a whole new image. With those images gone, with those two areas gone, I think we can also tighten up, get in a little tighter, and show those wonderful hairs that are on the stem and those water droplets. When you see the stem coming down to the flower and you see that white mass there, I would hit that with highlights. I think highlights would take that down because the minute I look at the image and everybody knows, where does your eye go? It goes to the light source. And my eye goes to that white area where the stem comes down, as opposed to the wonderful water droplets in the flower and everything else. So bright lights, highlights will cause the viewer to immediately lock on, and then they'll look around. So again, if it's possible, Nan, remove that stem and leaf there on the upper right, and then in the lower left, doing the same. Other than that, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful image. Next. Still waters, bright whispers. I'm thinking I may have been there. All right, how do we tighten this shot up? A couple things to consider. Every time there is an image, everything needs room to breathe. And the mast from the sailboat is cut off at the top in the upper right. I don't know if that's the way you captured it, but if you cropped down, next time consider leaving that mast in just, maybe a quarter, half inch of room to breathe. Cutting that off doesn't always work. Dehazing in post-production, I think, would dramatically increase the reflections in the water, and it would dull down because there's a lot of highlights in here. I think that the highlights would come down and we hit a bit of dehaze. This becomes a whole new image because the reflection is so much an integral part of this scene, and I would like to see it enhanced by developing more, by dehazing, giving that mass a place to breathe, and now it becomes a great shot. That becomes a shot to a point where you say, you know what, I'm going to put that on my wall. I'm going to send this into B&H out in California or one of the other Bay Photo, and I'm going to make it an 18 by 24. I'm going to put it over the fireplace. That's a nice shot. Good one, Derek. Thanks. Shooting into a light source is not easy. Could be a setting sun. It could be the moon. I think people tonight, tomorrow, and the next day, we're all going to be shooting into that harvest moon. Shooting into a light source is extremely difficult. This is a great example. We're oversaturated. We've got to tone down the light values. Let's start with desaturation. Once those tones come down a bit, I think we've got something. I also think you might want to consider the next time you see this in front of you, when you're out and you want to shoot, consider landscape mode. You see, when you take a look at that horizon there of all of that growth, I just think if landscape mode would have been something to consider. Denoising would help this image, but it's very well thought out, Glenn. I think that denoising was going to be critical. I think going to landscape mode would be really a nice way to enhance it. Got a lot of empty space up here on top. You know, I'm holding my thing there. Got a lot of empty space on top. I think that you could probably crop all the way down to a point where those deep tone blues hit the lighter tone blues. Yeah, I'm looking at that. Good one. See, you see things that mere mortals simply pass by. That's a good shot. Turn it. Next. Well, I sat in front of this a long time. And I don't want to be overly picky, but let's be overly picky. And the reason we can be overly picky is because it's really good. I used to have a program I used to teach called Photo and Food. I'd invite people over to my house and everybody would bring food and stuff. We'd all contribute like $50. And we'd take these elements of food from the grocery store and we put together these still life. And then we break it all down, we cook it. So let's take a look at this still life, because it is beautifully composed. And it's so good that we're going to be picky. For example, that fish down at the bottom is upside down. That's picky. I think the fish, isn't that awful when you have to find something like that? I think that it's, yeah, Dave, see the fish? Let's turn the fish upside down. I think that we've got too many fabrics. We've got a wonderful carpet down here. That's one design. Then we've got another one here. That's another design. Then we've got the background. That's another design. And then we got this other fabric back here behind the plate of fish. Too many designs. A lot of geometry in there. There's a phrase that studio photographers will use sometimes in doing things like say, the carpet should match the drapes. Well, right here, the carpet, the background, and this fabric don't match the drapes. There's too many different fabrics. 2 would have been good. 3, and 4 is right out. But it's a great shot. Really like it. And Alan, Alan, I don't know how much time it took you to put this together, but it's really good. It really, really is. And thank you for taking the time. So my only comment is, A, is it great and how? But reduce the fabrics because it compromises the image. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. All right, I've got a lot of geometry here. I love these lines coming down. You know, snow is a most difficult thing to photograph. It generates so many hot spots and highlights. I like the angle of the mountains coming down and meeting together in the middle. The amount of foreground that you've shown here is perfect. Really, really good. I think that the blue in the sky is a bit too dominant. I think if the blue in the sky was reduced just a bit, then the subject, which is the mountains, would stand out a bit more. In selective saturation and luminance, I think selecting green and increasing light would be a good call. But reducing the intensity of blue in the sky, that's a nice place to begin. I think bringing the greens up just a skosh Makes it very, very nice. Your cropping is right there. Really, really nice. But snow is a bugger. Snow can really be a bugger. So highlights, check your highlights. Other than that, it's Jack, it's a great shot. And I don't know where you were, but if you ever go back there, I'd like to go. Really good. Oh my, look at this. Milky Way. Not easy. Not easy, but really good. I'd like you to consider deleting, erasing some of these branches that are leaving the left and right side of your composition. I think you can do it effectively without altering the fact that it's a tree and it doesn't look like, you know, an arborist came by. I just think these branches coming off in half branches really should be removed, and I think that would be terrific. As to the foreground, I like it dark. I like it dark. If that foreground had a light value that was greater, I think it might take away. Another thing to consider, what's our subject here? Well, the subject is that house and the Milky Way. And the Milky Way dominates the scene. But the house is important too. I'd like you to consider increasing saturation and lights in yellow. Bring it up a bit. I think yellows, because you see behind the house off to the right, where you see that setting sun, those yellows would match up really well. Increase yellows, bring them to a light level that's in saturation level, that's in keeping with that setting sun to the right, I think might be interesting. Good one, Jeannie. Okay. You know, it's important. I think the birds are important. But there's too many. Too many birds. Consider cropping down from the top and taking away that flock of birds to the point where we create more of a landscape image, because we don't need those birds up there. We've got enough of them as they come through the upper 1/3 of the image. There's that source of light again. Very difficult to point your camera into light, but you've done a great job. I like the reflection as it comes down through the lower left-hand corner. Very, very nice. This is just a question of cropping. Please bring it down from the top. Let the birds that are in the middle, let them stand on their own merits. Very nice. Good one, Jerry. Sometimes I think that you can take a landscape mode in an aspect ratio that is portraiture, and it'll be okay. I think in this particular instance, it's a difficult consideration for the photographer because the foreground is really important. That snow and that ice and the designs that are there is an important element to the shot, as well as the mountain in the back. I think that it really should be landscape aspect ratio, but leave a lot of the foreground. Let that foreground be the lead-in for the viewer through the designs created in that ice. And I think we can get, I think you can get away with cropping down from the top. There's a lot of empty space there. The subject isn't the sky, the subject is the mountain, and the subject number 2, if you will, is that foreground leading in. So consider landscape mode, leave a lot of that lead in for the viewer to appreciate. It's a really, really nice shot. The fact that in these ice patterns and stuff, and we talked earlier about how difficult it is to photograph snow and the highlights that they give off. Your highlights in the foreground are really, really in hand. They're really good. They stand on their own merits and they're not blown out. It's a good one, to be sure. Thank you. Whoever took this is a very creative person. We've got, so what's the subject? Peaches and the reflection. And I think they can be enhanced both together by lowering highlights. I think highlights are kind of spreading things out. And it diffuses the highlight. The highlights are diffusing the detail in the peaches. And I think we get a lot sharper there. Very well thought out. I'm sorry? Somebody say something?
Wait,
Anyway, back to the lower highlights. Whoever put this composition together is an extremely creative artist, photo artist, wonderful still life. I just think it's a question of highlights. Other than that, Linda, nice job. Good one to be sure. This is a very interesting image. So when you're studying an image where you're going into post-production, first thing one should ask yourself is, I'm in Lightroom, I'm in Photoshop, here's the shot I just took. Let's apply these finishing touches to it. The first question everyone should ask themselves is, what is the subject? Once you know what the subject is, you can accentuate everything around it that supports it. You can increase the texture, the highlights, the contrast, but determining the subject is where it all begins. And let's use Pete's Fountain as an example. In my opinion, subject is this blast, if you will, of this hot magma and the detail that's in it. Off to the left, we've got a lot of things that I don't think we need. Because by cropping in from the left, the viewer will be able to concentrate more on the subject. I also think we've got a lot of empty space on the bottom. So let's consider cropping from the left and from the bottom up. Let's come in 3 inches on the left, and let's come up 2 inches on the bottom. Now we've got a very interesting subject. The spray of that magma going up to the upper right-hand corner, very effective. Texture, increased texture. I think that would be a nice way of highlighting that. Increase blacks. Increasing blacks, I think, would be a nice thing to consider, Lisa. Other than that, let me ask you a question. When you took this, could you feel the heat? I mean, that's a nice shot. I'm hoping you had at least a 600 millimeter lens. You know, we're all great photographers. We all want to get the shot, but there's a point where you just got to stop. So I hope you used a long lens. Very nice. Great job. Next. I sat and looked at this image for a long time because I couldn't figure out the reflections. Was the image flipped and joined together in order to mirror the reflection? Question mark. And if it was, why is that pool of water in the middle? I'm only guessing, but I wonder if we had an image that was flipped and then joined at the hip. It's a great mountain, it's a great reflection. And if the maker did flip it and join it, I think he should have brought it up just a little more, because that pool of water in the middle didn't permit the reflection. There's a gap in the reflection. And as a result of that, if this was in a photo contest or in a gallery, that would be pointed out. Love the idea, love the intent. Take an image, flip it, join it, but they really got to be a tight join. In this particular instance, that pool in the middle just says, So consider that. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But anytime you're doing that and joining two layers together, they've got to match all along the line, all along the horizon line. Nice place, Jack. If you ever go back there, call me. Want to go? Very nice. Thank you. From time to time, I will send out to my organization, and I know the beaches and St. Augustine, they post these phototunities about the rodeos. The rodeos are great places to get action shots. The situation is, in many instances, the hand of man in the background. In this particular instance, the people sitting in the stands and the steel posts in the roof don't really add anything here. Knowing that, setting your camera up to shoot something with a shallow depth of field will help eliminate that. Another thing to consider is with that barrel there, you know for a fact that these horses and these riders are going to come close to that barrel and going around it. So if you're ever at an action-packed place and you know exactly where the action's coming, you don't want to have to worry about focus. In other words, pre-focus on the barrel. Pre-focus on the barrel, and if necessary, then switch to manual focus. So you pre-focused, switch to manual so it doesn't move. You hit the shutter, and then when these horses and riders come around, you hit the shutter, they'll be sharp every single time because you pre-focused. So that's just a shooting tip where you can predict the movement. I used to do this a lot when they used to have the Greyhound races down in Daytona. When I do a lot of thoroughbred racing, and I will not focus on the horses. I'll focus on a clot of dirt on the track or a post on the fence. So anytime you're dealing with fast action, you want to get it sharp every single time, pre-focus. Now let's get back to the image. Love the gesture on the little guy there, his face, he's focused, looks good. Horse's eyes, really good. American flag on the nose, tells a story. Very, very nice. Susan did a great job. Going forward though, consider pre-focusing and consider an aperture that will send out of focus the hand of man that's in the background. Okay, shooting into the light source again. Dehaze might be a great tool here. So let's ask ourselves, as we all should, what's the subject? Is the subject the sun? Is the subject the pier? Is the subject the wonderful designs in the sand on the beach? Could be all three. And if it is all three, then I think we've got to give credit to all three. Let's start by cropping the bottom up 2 inches. I like the designs in the sand. I like those rivulets that run through there. That's really nice. But I just think there's just too much empty space in the foreground. So cropping up from the bottom 2.5 inches might be a nice place to start. I think the yellow, when I look at this image, my eye goes right to that sun. And I think yellow's got to come down. Too hot. looking at that pool of water off to the left, I'm going to assume that's a direct reflection of the sky above. But the light values in that blue sky with puffy white clouds are different from the light values in the morning sun and the dark clouds. Is that the way it was? I guess, but it may cause a person to wonder if that was something that was slipped in there as part of the natural background. All in all, like the image. Look good on metal. That'd be a great image for acrylic or metal hanging on your wall. But it's a good, Marianne, good job. Consider coming up from the bottom, a couple inches, more of a landscape mode. Send it off to Bay Photo, metal. Next. Okay. I'm going to guess this is a vacation image taken with a cell phone, which is perfectly fine. Now let's dive into it. You've got a cluttered background. It's the ship, but it's part of the story. You're on vacation, that's our ship. This is where we were. You've got a photographer on a tripod taking a picture of you. Did you know that? Right in the middle of the piazza. Now, if you want the picture of a guy taking a picture of you, and that's part of the story, that's fine. Left-hand edge. We've got someone's jacket. You might want to consider taking that out. I think that we've got, because of the lens, you might want to consider cropping in from the right. See how it looks so crooked there. Spot removal, you want to take out some of those pigeons. Question has always been, how many pigeons is too many pigeons? Maybe, maybe we have too many pigeons, I don't know. So anyway, it's a great vacation image. I think the ship is the subject. It tells a story. Isn't that what a photograph has to do? It tells a great story about your vacation. There's the ship. Here's some architecture, both left and right. I just think it'd be cleaned up a little bit by eliminating some of these things that, like in that lower left corner, and maybe that other fellow, I'd say crop in from the left 2 inches. And I think you might have to. And here's another place where you might want to consider vignette. Maybe a vignette, a shallow vignette may have a way of just compressing the scene. But Steve, it's a great one. And I thank you for posting. Okay. This is an interesting subject because traditionally we don't photograph the end of life. And that's what this image is. It's the end of life. If you're walking in a garden and you saw these roses, you'd take a picture of a rose. And if you saw one where the petal wasn't quite right, I know you'd probably reach in there and pull it off and take it off, wasn't quite right. Maybe if there's an insect, you shoo him away, and you clean it all up and you take a picture of 3 healthy, wonderful roses. And here is an example of the end of life, and it's very, very well presented. Really good. I think the question here is depth of field. The rose that's in the middle, closest to the viewer, is not in focus. And as we move back into the image, there are varying degrees of roses that become crisp and clear. The one on the left, being the furthest one back, is really, really sharp. And I think when you're showing a scene like this, where things are have a lot of texture and a lot of meaning because it's dying, So the title, hang in there. It's like these roses were on resuscitation. They're being fed fluids or something. Great title, by the way. How about those stems that come down from the top? Do we need those? Question mark. Should they be removed? Maybe. But I think all in all, it's a depth of field question. I don't know what the setting was. Just from where I'm sitting here, I'm going to guess 5, 6. But if you had shot this F-16, everything for the most part, I believe, would have been sharp and tactful. But it's a really, really nice title. Is wonderful. It's a great shot. There's a little bit of highlight in the background of the blacks. So increase blacks, that tighten that up nicely. But all in all, it's a wonderful photograph of things that mere mortals would pass by. And the fact that you saw something there is just terrific. So thank you for sharing that. Here's a question that comes to light from time to time, and I'll hear it from people who own galleries. And one of the rules for bringing in your images to the gallery is it has to be all your own work. It has to be everything your work. So here's a wonderful photograph, but it's someone else's work. It's your photograph. It's their art. So much so is that they have their watermark on there, and it's copywritten over here on the left. And then down in the bottom, a third time, you can see it is the creation of someone else. Now, is it a fine photograph? It's a nice photograph. So let's talk about it strictly from the standpoint of it being a photograph. Crop in from that right-hand edge. We don't need that palm tree stalk there. I think you can bring that in maybe 1.5 inches and just remove that tree. If you have spot removal, these wires hanging down on the left edge, if you could take those out, I think that might be a good idea. Yeah. Staying with the composition the way it is, let's tighten it up a bit. I think texture, clarity would be good choices. And here's an ethical question. Is it the right thing to do as a photographer to eliminate through spot removal the artist's signatures? Now, this has nothing to do with the maker of this photograph. It's just an ethical question that you may want to ask yourself. I took this picture, let's say, and I'm going to enter a contest. Is it ethical for me to take spot removal and remove the artist's logos, names, watermarks, and then enter it as a photograph? Let's leave that for a discussion at the end of this show. Let's let that sit there. As to this photograph, nice job, good job, street art, like it. Good one, Mike. Natural rainbows in a waterfall. I think that you might want to consider ratcheting back the saturation, because I love the waterfall. I really, really do. It's a little too intense. If we pull back a bit on general global saturation, it may allow the rocks and the waterfall to stand out a little more. Because as we all know, the viewer immediately goes to the source of light. And those wonderful waterfall there on the bottom of the tossed, the water and the droplets, I like to see that accentuated more by reducing the general saturation of that rainbow. I think it takes away from the tumult of what's going on here. I think it's a photograph of a waterfall coming through these wonderful rocks, and that rainbow enhances it, but I don't know if that's the subject. I think the subject should be the water. Increase texture, increase highlights, just a smidge, because you know how easy it is to blow out whites in water. But I think ratcheting back saturation will allow the viewer to appreciate the waterfall in the foreground. Thanks. Okay, tranquil morning. Great job on the sky. Love the pastel tones. Really, really good on that sky. What's the subject? It's the subject, the sky. Is the subject the ship? And if it is the ship, and the sky is so good, I think that if we go in and mask the ship and bring its light values up, we may have something here that's really special. I think that when I look back at it, that sky is so dominating and so good that I'm not seeing the ship the way I would like to. So consider, if you would, masking the ship, bringing the light values up. Start with shadows. Don't start with exposure. Sometimes exposure is just it's just too harsh. Whenever you're increasing light and you're masking, rather than going to exposure, start in shadows or darks. And the terms I'm using are specific to Lightroom, but it's the same values in Photoshop. I always find that when you're masking, you want to bring light values up or down. I always go to exposure last. I think the darks and shadows is a nice way. Do that. I think you got something very, very nice here. Very, very nice. The fact that it's in port, fine. But we don't have any tourists walking around. I'm sure you got up very, very early in the morning. Denoising that sky might be a consideration then. But all in all, it's a really, really wonderful image. And thank you for sharing. Aurora Borealis. Do we need the foreground in this shot? Question mark. Denoising might be a consideration. I also think that maybe we're a little heavy-handed on saturation. Just skosh back on desaturation, because the colors aren't natural. So this is a national phenomenon happening, and you're capturing it with your camera, but I think it's overly saturated. I think it'd be much more effective if we consider eliminating the foreground. It's not adding to the image. Desaturating and increasing blacks might be a nice way to do that. Denoise it, and it becomes special. Good one, Patricia. Harp in the sun. Let's call it a still life. But the background is a killer. If you take this image again, and I'd like you to consider it because it's really a nice piece of art, and your focus on the strings is really good. And I didn't realize that a harp has different colored strings. So I've learned something. But the background has to go. So how do we do that? If you don't want to reshoot it, go into Lightroom, Photoshop, desaturate green and yellow to nothing, and it'll become gray. Now I can say that because there's nothing in the subject that is green or yellow, so that when you do desaturate green and yellow, you won't affect the subject. Or you can reshoot it with a black background as a consideration. It's a piece of art. The fact that the carving and the strings are perfectly sharp makes it a really nice piece, but the background's a killer, sorry to say. So again, consider selective desaturation, green and yellow, drop them down to nothing. Now you have a gray background, or consider reshooting with a black or gray fabric background and use an aperture where it will dissolve to the back. Something 5.6 will work very nicely. Good one. Oh, this is a good one. I sat over this one for a while. First question is, did you lay on your back to take it? The geometry is really good. I was doing, a couple of months ago, I was doing a series on kaleidoscope photography, and this reminds me of that. But in fact, this is absolutely natural architecture, and it all leads to the center. So your cropping is good. Look at the upper right and the upper left-hand corner where the maker was able to just take those into the corner, into the corner. Now let's go down to the bottom, into the corner, into the corner. Very, very effective cropping. Just wonderful. And all those 4 leading lines just leads us right to the center. To further accentuate our concentration on the center, this might be an interesting place to consider a vignette. What does a vignette do? It concentrates the viewer to the subject, providing it's in the center. And this one is. There's a consideration perhaps for that, Ted. Good one to be sure. The emphasis on this shot is leading lines. And I'm sure the maker took their time to figure out where they should stand in order to capture this wonderful leading line. Leads right to the subject. And that's what leading lines do. The gazebo. I like it. I think that we've got some things that should be considered not important on the left edge. I don't think we've got some space over there that's, see the left edge, if you look at the image, the left edge, we've got that material over there, looks like a dock, looks like there's a stone wall. Consider cropping in from the left up to the beginning of that stone wall, and consider cropping in from the right and eliminate that bush that's sticking out. Again, it's incomplete. So in on the right, 1.5 inches. In on the left, 1.5 inches. Okay, now we got something. So let's drop those highlights down. Highlights are blown. I want to see the lawn. I want to see the texture in that beautiful leading line that you recognize that goes again right to that gazebo. Let's improve the leading line. And I think we can do it with texture. I think we got to reduce highlights. I think that we have to consider maybe a little bit of clarity and contrast. Good place for contrast. Nice shot, Richard. I can see where you took your time to stand. What a great shot. Oh. So, you know, every now and, you know, we've had some great shots here today. And so when I get great shots, then I get to be picky. So here's some of the things that I noticed that you might want to consider. Let's start with the color red. Red in the plate swings left to the red in the peppers, swings right to the rose. Wonderful. Great geometry by color. I love the way you worked color into that geometric pattern of a triangle. Background, great shot. Carpet does match the drapes here. It's a photographic thing. But an open can of anchovies. I know it's about pizza, but I don't know if it fits. Everything else is fresh produce. It's just a comment, not a criticism. Do we need an open metal can of anchovies when everything else is fresh produce for the pizza? Carrot tops hanging over the side, very well thought out. Garlic, paring knife, very well done. The fact that you added, you see the husks of the onions that the maker just put together and you left them on the cutting board. Nice, good, very tasteful. If you look at the height of the wine glass and the wine bottle, climbing to the top of, and including the rose, climbing to the top of the composition, really good, really good. I wouldn't mind it if that vase with a rose in it was supported and could go up just maybe another inch. That would really just kind of tighten that up. Got some highlights in that upper upper right-hand corner. That's something that you might want to consider with masking. What do you think about blue in this composition? Do we need blue? Jumps at you. All the other colors are interrelated and mix very well. Blue. Question mark. I guess everyone has to answer that question. Do we need that blue, or would it have been more effective to have been white? So, not right, not wrong, just a question. Robert, I'll bet that took you more than an hour to compose. You did a great job. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to guess this is Seattle. Yeah, it says so. Okay, that works. That top building, the upper left-hand corner, you gave to room to breathe. Perfect. You might want to consider an inch off the bottom, give it more of an aspect ratio. The reflections in the water are wonderful. I think the overall scene, though, could use some tightening up. Texture, clarity. Take your highlights down a bit. Great place for dehaze. One of the things that when I do these critiques, I'm assuming, and probably I shouldn't, I assume that everybody has this capability. When I say dehaze or highlights, do this, do that, when in fact it's very possible, of course, that you don't. But if you do, these are some of the things to consider. That wheel and that reflection is a very important component, and you handle it very well. The fact that Ferris wheel, and this is a mistake that I make and everybody makes, is we'll take the main subject and we'll put it right smack dab in the center. In this case, it's off to the left, and it really works. It really, really works. It has the most light, so that's where the viewer's eye go, and it's not smack dab in the center. Off to the left, perfect. Great job. Thank you. Pulsars. So upon viewing this, I see light, and it's all over the place. And I don't think pulsars are the subject. I think the subject is this wonderful seaport and these fishing boats. If you put the pulsars in, that's fine. You give the mass of the ship room. If you were to crop up from the bottom and let the leading edge coming out of the right corner be the beginning of the dock, that might be a nice consideration. So what do the pulsars contribute? It's not right or wrong. If it was my shot, I might want to dim them down a bit because that's where my eye's going. I'm seeing the image and those pulsars are hitting me right in the face. And the fact is that the subject is the rigging and the mass of these wonderful fishing boats and that dock that comes from the lower right out into the middle. So all I'm saying is, Roxanne, great job. If you put the pulsars in, nice, but there's a time and a place for them, I think. And I think if there's one source of light, pulsar really works. But here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pulsars, and there's a lot. So consider, if you like them, they stay. It's your image. Great job. Thank you. Blue Ridge Mountains. A lot of different light values here. And I think that the light values in the lower foreground may be the results of people's headlights. It looks artificial, everything is blown out, and I'd like the maker to consider cropping from the bottom up to eliminate that artificial form of light. Great sunrise, sunset. Blue Ridge. Sometimes wonder how the Blue Ridge got its name. I guess it really comes from the fact that the bending of light, the visible spectrum, with red, orange, and yellow not necessarily being part of the image, and green leaves blue is the dominant tone. I'm guessing that through the visible spectrum that during certain circumstances of light that the mountains look blue, and it's a product of light. So great image, nice landscape, and thank you for sharing, Dan. I think this is a photograph of just the reflection and not the buildings. And if that's the case, great job. I can't figure out, however, the top portion. That's also, I guess, a reflection. But I love the artistic intent of photographing just the buildings, but the upper half, my opinion, distracts. And I think you should consider really just cropping it out and going with what you have there as just the reflection, because it's really quite nice. It really, really is. Sam, good job. Consider if you would. I know you're an artist, so just a consideration. I love the fact that you took your time to just photograph the reflection, but I think the top 2 or 3 inches is taken away from a really fine image. But very nice. Thank you. Again, what's the subject? It's those young people. It's the art. It's the graffiti. It's the skate park. You've got homeless people in the right side. There's a story here, but the trees don't add to it. The story is, look at these young people having fun in this bowl of contemporary art, and off in the corner, we've got someone who spends the night there with his bicycle and that homemade tent. If you were to crop down, heavy, come all the way down and just leave the homeless in the what will become the upper right-hand corner, and the young people in the foreground, that's journalism. That photograph tells a great story. You see where it says and crop those trees aren't adding any, my opinion, trees aren't adding anything here, but there's so much to deal with. There's just a contrast between lifestyles that this photograph is presenting. My opinion is, get the trees out, and you've got a wonderful subject here, and the homeless there, which will become the upper right-hand corner. That's a wonderful photograph. And you know what? The title will hold up too. They'll learn much more. That title is going to hold up after you crop. Next. What's the subject? The mountains or the boats? Let's say both. Let's go with both. I think if we reduce reds and oranges and bring that light value and intensity down, then there'll be more harmony between the foreground boats and the background mountains. Look at it. I see the boats, when in fact the mountains are so important here. I think that the light values and in the intensity of the reds and oranges, drop those down and let those colors come together into one print with a wonderful foreground and a terrific background. Yeah, that's nice. Really, really good. And just hit texture if you have a chance, Susan. Increase texture so we can see the striations in that mountain behind there. And that snow is going to pop out nicely. Yeah, this is just a question of desaturation. Really, really nice shot, Susan. It's really good. Nice and clean, no debris. There may have been debris, but the maker took it out. No hand of man for the most part. The subject is the car, supported by a wonderful background. Room both front and back of the car for it to breathe. And you've got a secondary subject there in the window. Really nice, really nice. Yeah, that's a good one to be sure. Good one, Ted. Thank you for posting. Boy, I studied this one for a long time. It's really good. Really good. The subject is the beach. And the focus on the beach is spot on. But there are components of the composition that are taking away from what's so important. And most importantly, the leaf in the upper left corner. Doesn't add anything to the composition. In fact, it takes away. That leaf has to go, in my opinion. I think the depth of field is really, really good. I think the diffused background speaks very well for the composition. The fact that the leaves on the left-hand side are already clipped, we might as well clip them some more. And let's come up from the bottom 2 inches. So again, we're going to crop up from the bottom 2 inches. The leaf in the upper left-hand corner should be removed if possible. And denoise. I think denoising and getting the noise out of this shot will allow the center peach to stand on its own merits. Beautiful shot. I'm guessing this was taken from a tripod because your focal point is sharp, and it's a really, really fine image, Tom. Thank you. The splash of glass. My biggest observation is that the subjects, all three of them, are clipped. That is to say, the edges are clipping the subjects. And if that can be avoided, that's something you really should be concerned about. Everything needs room to breathe. All subjects need room to breathe. And in this particular instance, we've clipped them. Subject is interesting, though. I think that by increasing contrast, increasing on the top half, blacks might be an interesting way to take a look at this. And as far as aperture is concerned, we've got a narrow, we've got a depth of field there that doesn't permit everything to be in focus. So once again, my only critical component here is clipping left and right and add a little bit of black to let those things have more contrast. Next. All right, David, is this where you take over?
We're going to monochrome now.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
You're gonna wait? Oh,
This way, actually, what was it?
yeah.
So this is the start over. Hold on, please.
Well, no, you're showing ribbons right now.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, storm ribbons.
I'm gonna turn on my light. Hold on.
Okay. Dave, are you doing the ribbon announcements? Or hang on a minute.
I can announce them. Is this the
Yeah, let's do ribbons. That'll give me a minute to settle up for the next bit. Go ahead and do the ribbons for color.
You can see it, right, Dave?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know whether Dave was going to handle it or not.
That's for you.
Echoes Antiquity, Helen Rose shot. She submits another excellent still life image to the contest. Very well done. Next. Jack's Connection, Charlie Baldwin. This was a result, I believe, from a morning outing at the one of the schools that we went to, and it was a popular image. Charlie's capture of it's very well done. Nice shot, Charlie. Next, Midnight in Odessa, Gene Hull. One thing about these images that's kind of disappointing to me is the color rendering on the screen, the way it's coming through. The colors are much flatter than they are in person. It might have something to do with the rendering going back and forth between all of these programs and mix-ups on the color settings, but all of these images are much brighter in the native format. Gene had this shot in earlier, and it turned out very well. Hollywood Nights. This was an interesting night in Hollywood. It's kind of like New Orleans, kind of like Bourbon Street up at Highland and Hollywood Boulevard on a Saturday night. Again, this is an image that the color is just completely off in the presentation versus the actual. So Whiteley, the Cat Out of the Flare, Robert Wells, another excellent image. Next, Morning Dew, and Ann Ellis. And this image just lit me up when I saw it. It was just so well done, Ann, and David was very effusive in the praise on it, and I totally agree with him. It's so soft and just so well, great color harmonies. Next, and speaking of color harmonies, this just was a stick out again in on the native images. The color renders were just so brilliant in a dead image. Well noted by Dave. So very well done, Yara.
If I can make a moment, can I just jump in here?
Yep.
It's rare that you can derive mood from still life. This one does. The fact that the roses are dying generates mood. It's rare to generate mood from still life. That did. That's very good.
Well done. Congratulations all. On to mono.
Okay, Dave, you've got the floor. Dave Bowers.
All righty, we're going to start with, how's our time, by the way?
It's 7:10. So, and this is a smaller category. There are only about, I think, 18 or something in this one.
18 is correct. So a couple of things. One, I want to absolutely ensure that I spend enough time on every single image, but I don't want to run over. So
we're on Zoom, so nobody's going to kick us out.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I wish I had taken this image. That's very good. It's all about the light. Light on a photograph is more important than location. It's my opinion. Look at this. Different angles of light, different values of light. The blacks are held together so very well. There's enough texture there. If you take a look at the cropping, everything is very nice and straight. There is a foreground. That walk mat, that's part of that right there. It acts as a leading line. I just think this is a superb image. The contrasts and the levels of black make this very strong. When you see the light that is on the door in the back. How important is that? Well, probably not important, but it sure is nice. It kind of points the way in. It's a story. You're walking down that leading mat, it leads you to the door, and there's a ray of light that says, this way. Tells a story. Wonderful image. It's compelling. It's absolutely compelling. Becky, wonderful, magnificent. I'm going to guess infrared. Looks infrared. Black sky. No highlights. I would have liked to have seen a bit more foreground. As water cascades down into the fountain, I think that, let's go back. As water cascades down into the fountain, I think they would have had a little more impact if we had more of that black water where the water was hitting and creating those repeating circles of light. Really nice, really good, beautifully centered. Good one to be sure about. Yeah, the old oak trees. I think highlights here are an issue. I think we need more contrast between the dark and the light. If you have the ability in post-production, I think that dehazing has to be considered. And I think highlights should be considered as being reduced. It's a nice lead-in on the foreground. The tree is so massive So, remember we talked earlier on about branches leaving on the left and branches leaving on the right. This will work because the tree is so big. And the fact that you use natural framing for the house in the back really works. The fact that you took your time as to where am I going to stand and take this image, and you allowed that great big branch to kind of go over the top of the roof and then shoot right into the house, really well thought out. Really well thought out. I just think it can be more effective if we can reduce those highlights and kind of give more of a contrast between light and dark and just kiss it with texture. Good one, Carol. So, do you remember when I was speaking at one of the club meetings a couple of months ago? I was giving a speech on going to aquariums. Remember I talked to you about you take the toilet bowl plunger, you put it on the end of your camera, and you stick it up against the glass. That's how I shoot underwater shots that go to an aquarium because I don't have any diving gear. This, however, I'm guessing is the real deal. This is real underwater photography, and it is really terrific. So now we have this wonderful jellyfish, and look at the tail of the jellyfish going down to that corner. Superb. The black, there's nothing else in the background, no little fish, no kelp, no other debris. It's clean, it's crisp, and it allows the viewer to see just how delicate a jellyfish can be. So well done. I'm going to call it the cap or the top of the jellyfish. There's a chance there that those whites could be blown out. They're not. They're good. Really good. Good one, Cindy, to be sure. I'm guessing George L. Smith, State Park. I also have a sense this might be infrared. Not that that's important or not, but it has that sense to it. Very nice. Highlights are always an issue when it comes to infrared. I think a little bit more contrast might be an interesting adaptation. It's a wonderful landscape. What's the subject? These wonderful trees supported in the back by more of the same gives the viewer a sense of how big, how vast a cypress swamp can actually be. And this picture does that. It really gives the impression of vastness. Does it need a person? No. Does it need a bird? No. Just a nice shot. It really, really accomplished the goal if your intent was to show that this is a natural setting in a cypress swamp. Good job. Good one. Thank you. Great depth of field. I like the fact that there's enough room for the water to run under the bridge. I thought about when I was looking at this to crop in from the right and take those buildings out. I think that's a mistake. I think we need more. I think we show more in this image by allowing more water to pass under the bridge. Pulsars, we talked about that earlier. Do they work here? Yeah, I think they do. Why? Why do these pulsars work and the other ones didn't? I think these work because the light values of underneath the bridge and the buildings in the background have more intensity. And as a result of that, my eyes aren't immediately drawn to the pulsars. My eyes are drawn to the brickwork and the texture and the buildings in the background and the water going under the bridge. And it's supported by the pulsars. So it's a question of light value, where one holds a subject together and the other doesn't take away. Good one, Derek. Street photography, photojournalism. So if an image is going to be photojournalistic, you have to be able to pictorially discuss the subject. I have a dream. Perfect. If that flag and the wind wasn't strong enough and it just hung down, you couldn't read it, not good. Here, the photograph supports the march, supports the journalism behind it. We've got people walking and they've got room to go. We've got people who have walked and you've got enough room to show where they came from. That's important. It gives you a sense that they're moving from right to left. Could you have taken some of that empty space off the top? Yeah, I guess. But the subject is journalistic. And the maker of this photograph delivered the message by allowing that flag to be captured at exactly the right moment. And that is a fine photograph. Ron. Don't normally see still life in black and white. But this one works very nicely. When to spray and when not to spray. I guess most of us have all done still lifes and then taken that little spray bottle with the glycerin in it and spray things. Are you supposed to spray everything? I'm just asking. It's a wonderful still life. No clipping. Light values are really nice. I'm trying to be picky. Nothing to be picky about. Highlights are good. Texture is good. Depth of field, good. Checks all the boxes, Helen. Really nice. This is not an easy photograph to take. Photographing snow has got to be one of the most difficult. And I would like to know from the maker if they used a polarizer. Wonderful texture. The fact that these mountains are so massive that we don't have to discuss something getting clipped. There's enough room in that upper right-hand corner. Perfect. The sky darkened. Perfect. And the most impressive thing, my opinion, foreground. Look at that texture in the foreground. Look how it works through there. And look at the fact that it's sharp, and the sharpness leads all the way to the top of the mountain. I'm guessing F16, F22. Really good. Really, really good. I'd like to know, Jack, did you use a polarizer? Question mark. Next. You know, when they say when you're taking action photography, there's nothing better than timing. Great example. Got that fluke up there. We got the drips coming down. Some people would say, but it's a grab shot. Yeah, but it's a great grab shot, and you have to know when to grab. You know what I'm saying? You have to anticipate things like this and be there and capture it. So in terms of the photographer grabbing this shot, did a great job. Perfect timing. And the fact that the water is coming off the tail like that, it's angled very nicely. And in the foreground, we've got the buoy that is also in focus. Very nice. Would it also been nice if we had clouds in the sky? I guess. But other than that, highlights are a little bit strong in the ocean. Increasing blacks might be a consideration in terms of contrast, but very interesting shot. Good one, Jerry. Extremely creative. I sat on this one for a while trying to figure out what we had here. And I'm guessing these dice were thrown over a mirror. I always wonder how many times you threw the dice, but it's really good. This has commercial applications, clearly in a casino, someone's game room, somebody's man cave. What artistic value does it have? It's very creative, it's very contemporary, but it's got really strong commercial applications. If you put that out and you put that on, I guess metal would probably be the best surface. And you advertise that to men who had, you know, they go down there and they play with their video games and their card games. That's a great shot. That'd be a great shot. Good one, Jim. Very creative. Great study in light. I love the fact that the window and its light is connected with the light to the subject being the bench. So here we have the bench acting as a leading line to the window, but it's held together with light. Not to mention the fact that it also goes on the floor right up through the foreground, sitting right up there for the viewer to embrace. Very well thought out. Really good shot. Really good shot. You know, if this was my shot and it was something, you know, I'd be tempted to put a subject in there, you know, just add it as a layer, and it would be a complete flop. That's all you need. That's a great shot. Good one, Nancy. Backlighting. I would like this. This is a panning shot. So in panning, shutter speed is a critical component. So I would like to suggest when you shoot this again, horses on the beach, that you get up to a minimum, if possible, 1,600 to 2,000. And those water droplets from the splash, the horse's hooves and the hair coming off the back and the hair in the mane will be tack sharp. So this is just a question of settings. 4 hooves off the ground, not easy. 4 hooves off the ground is the money shot with horses, and you got it. But I would like to see a faster shutter speed, and you've got a real winner here. Real good one, Patricia. I think that we've got a really excellent shot here. I think we're a little too tight. I would like to have seen a little more room in the foreground. We're a little too tight to the bowl at the bottom. Another thing that takes my eye away, I being the viewer, is the message that's in the t-shirt. I think that should go, if it's possible to get that out. But the focus is the fingertips and the texture in the bowl, the turning of the bowl, the design she's made with her fingertips. I think we're just a bit off on aperture because the fingertips are not quite sharp. The texture in the bowl is, but I think the hands are so important to the subject and the bowl that the depth of field should include the hands and the bowl. Really well thought out, perfect for black and white. I mean, this is just perfect shot for black and white. But I would like to see that message taken off the shirt, a little more room in the foreground, and the depth of field to include the fingers and the bowl would have been helpful. Storytelling. I'd like to tell the story by tightening this up a little bit through effective cropping. I don't know if we need the figure in the background. I'd like to make our subject and the trombone player bigger. He is the subject. That's what this is all about. The sign in the upper left-hand corner that I think is going to spell union or onion or something, and that's got to go. Crop in the left so that we only have the T-I-L-I. I want to make the subject bigger. And I want to create a situation for the end of his trombone going to a corner. Yeah. I want the end of that, it was mine. I'd like to place the end of that trombone going to the lower right corner. I'd like to take an inch off that left edge and get rid of that incomplete sign. And I don't know is if the walking man contributes. I think a way to perhaps test that, because it's an unanswered question. So if we cropped in from the right and we took the pole out behind the man, so we saw him walking, leaving him in, what would the story be? The story would be, here's a musician, he's got his tip jar out and no one's paying attention. So maybe that man in the background is valuable to tell the story. So if we cropped in again from the right and left the man in, yeah, I think it adds. Yeah, I'm gonna alter my thought on that. I think that man can add some content. Okay. There's something nice about the stillness of the swamp. And there's a little bit of stillness there as represented by a very, very soft exposure. I like it. I like it a lot. Blacks are terrific. The sense that it's not tack sharp, my interpretation is a gentle breeze. Just a gentle breeze, maybe a little bit of fog left over from the morning, but it tells a story of that, I guess, George L. Smith cypress swamp. I like it a lot. The blacks hold up in the foreground so well. It gives a very nice reflection. Yeah, that's a good one to be sure, Tom. Thank you for sharing. I was looking at that fence and I'm thinking, what does that fence do? Well, for me, it was holding back the fog. So what's the subject again? Subject is the fence, fog. I don't think it's a tree. I don't know if the subject is the tree. Got a lot of room on the left. I think we can get rid of some of that empty space. I think we've got something here that's really good, and I like the way the fence is acting as a barrier, holding back artificially to the fog that appears to be rolling in. So I'm going to consider cropping down from the top, create more of a landscape aspect ratio, take some room off, take 2 inches or 3 off the left edge, and I think we've condensed it down to the subject being the fence and the fog. And I think that will tell us a nice tight story. Talks about the fog. Good one, Sally. Civil War reenactments. Why is this a good image? Eye contact. Perfect. Wonderful. Eye contact. That tent in the upper right corner, I'd like to have a little more room to breathe. If you have the ability in post-production, kiss it with sepia chrome. That further timestamps Civil War reenactments. Little sepia. Boy, the eye contact is great. A good one to be sure. And look at the way these tents support the subject. Coming in from the right and left on an angle like that, supports the subject right there. In fact, he's just a skosh off to the left, not smack dab center. Like it. I don't like subject smack dab center. Just an opinion. Good one. You're up.
Okay,
Dave.
the Monochrome Awards. Let's start it off, Liz. Honorable mention, Bob Richardson, The Fountain. Very well done. Very well done. Excellent image for Monochrome. Next. Seclusion, Carol Curtis. We talked about this, or David talked about this at length. It's soft the way it is now, and could it be improved? Maybe.
Yeah, I love the natural framing.
It's a salted taste for the maker. Nicely done, Carol. Tom Gaddis, I was just looking at this. It almost has a Norton effect to it. It might have it. It appears that it does have. It fits so well with this image. White, third place in it. Well done, Tom. Mystic Jelly Love. Cindy Merle. Cindy, you always end up with the Monochrome Awards. Well done again. I don't know whether this was an aquarium shot or a live shot. That's a good question, Dave. It's just very well done, figuratively and tonally. It's just well done shot.
Brilliant. I love the way Cindy allowed the viewer to drill down and see the fine detail. And clearly, this is an image. Her cropping skills are tremendous. Look at the tail of into that corner, and the highlights are maintained, and the detail is spot on.
It is. And finally, the blue ribbon, Becky. Great image, Becky. When you brought this into the critiquing images that we did before, and you threw this up on the screen, I remember Bill and Sean and I looked at it and said, nothing to talk about. And it held. It's just very well composed. The tonal separations in the monochrome are very, very well done. Very smooth, great transitions in it. David, I know you went at length to discuss this image when you critiqued it, and I don't know that there's any more to say, but it's just a very, very well done image.
Oh, it's top shelf in every respect. Top shelf.
There we are.
Okay.
So, Liz, it's back to you till Thursday.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, so everybody, that is it for the night. Same login, same time on Thursday. Thank you, Dave and Dave. And congratulations, winners.
Nothing but fun.
There's Becky there.
What do you think?
Congratulations all. All right, here I go. I'm going to end the call. Goodbye.